Well, guys, thanks for having me here. It's just a pleasure to be here in Cabo. And what I want to share with you today is how we can develop and grow a positive mindset in this negative world. And that's one of the things that I share with my students, and am looking forward to put that into my new coaching program. So when we look at the fact that we have a positive side and we have a negative side, psychologists tell us that the positive side, or the growth mindset, versus the negative side, or the fixed mindset, is really what shapes us and takes us to that next level. Wouldn't you agree? When we look at the growth side, and that's what we're going to focus on today, it allows us the opportunity to cultivate and change our existence or our environment. By doing that, and through hard work and perseverance, then we create our reality. The fixed mindset, basically where we say, everything's kind of carved in stone, right? My father used to tell me, it's my way or the highway, and that there's never any room for growth or development. That's where we really want to, put that in the rearview mirror and spend very little time on the fixed side of it. So, I've been an entrepreneur for about 25 years, and I would say I am psychologically unemployable, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to make that choice and decision in my life. Not everybody does. And so, one of the things that I'm going to help with my students and consultants is show them the other side, right? Show them not the dark side, Luke, but the positive, the light. And that's part of what the growth mindset is all about. So what I think really there's three elements that we need to focus on, and these are the things that I'm going to share with my students. First one being, keep that vision in front of you always. What is it that you're looking for on a daily basis? What is it that you're putting up on the chalkboard, on the bulletin board, on the refrigerator? Are you keeping that in front of you all the time? Number two, I think you want to run your own race, not everybody else's. Unfortunately, sometimes early in life, we get either a stigma or a label that says, you must do this, you must be this. And number three, you want to always, always, always keep that positive outlook, even when you don't want to. And there are days when we don't want to. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. I want to share a quick story with you. Back in the early 1980s, there was a struggling young actor, and he was always trying to get that big part, but was never able to. So he decided to do something a little different, kind of cultivate a new reality. So he hopped in his old beat up car, he cruised up to the Hollywood Hills, he looked out over Hollywood and Los Angeles, pulled out his checkbook, wrote him a check to himself for $10 million and said, one day Hollywood, I'm going to cash this check. Put it back in his pocket, hopped in his car and went to work. Every time that he felt a little down, every time that there was a struggle or an uphill battle, he'd pull that check out and he'd look at it and he'd say, Hollywood, one day I'm going to cash this $10 million check. And you know what? 10 years later, the actor and comedian Jim Carrey cashed that check for $10 million. As a matter of fact, he makes currently anywhere from $15 to $25 million a movie. So as Norman Vincent Peale says, what the mind of man can conceive and believe, he will achieve. If he gets off his butt and gets to work. Yeah. Because that's what I'm going to share with you now. Run your own race, right? So the second element. So many times, and maybe you've been labeled, perhaps early in life that you were maybe too short, right? You were too tall, too fat. Maybe you weren't good enough, you weren't smart enough. Well, let's talk about several people that overcame their average and ordinary labels. Ever heard of Einstein, right? The theory of relativity. Labeled average and ordinary as a young man. Tolstoy, who wrote War and Peace, right? It's about a 1,000-page book, and of course I've never read it because I have a short attention span. But let's look at Charles Darwin, the theory of evolution, right? And not that I agree that we evolved from apes, although now that I met my wife's side of the family, I don't know. I beg to differ. But those individuals all overcame their shortcomings to do great things in life. And of course, my favorite was Michael Jordan. And I'm a basketball player and a football player, early in life. And he was my idol. But, he was told by his coach, not once, but twice, that you're not good enough. You'll never make it in life. You'll never make my team, Michael. Well, 6 rings and probably the biggest brand in the world right now, the Jordan brand later, he showed them, right? So always keep that vision in front of you. Keep moving towards it every single day, even when you don't want to. Get out of bed and say, oh, thank the Lord, thank God it's morning, rather than saying, good God, it's morning, right? Keep striving for greatness. And I think that if we continue to do that, obviously, and we keep those visions in front of us, we're going to get that desired goal and that desired result. So, when one other little story that I'd like to share with you, kind of in conclusion, was there was this little boy, and he went out in the backyard and he picked up his baseball bat and his ball, as little boys do, and put on his baseball cap, and he tossed that ball up into the air, and he swung at it with all his might, and he missed it. Strike one, he said. And he picked that ball up again, and he tossed it up in the air, and he swung with all his might again and missed it. Strike two, he said. And he reached down, and he picked up the ball, and he pulled up his pants, and he straightened his hat. And with more ambition than ever, he threw that ball up, and with precision timing, he swung and he missed it again. Strike three, he said. So the little boy put his bat down, and he bent down, and he picked up the ball. And he had a big smile on his face as he looked at the ball, and he said, what do you know? I'm the greatest pitcher in the world. So never, ever, ever be afraid to modify your game plan. Always swing for the fences. And I challenge you today to do whatever it takes to design the life of your dreams. Because in the end, you win. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Good.